Boom, we're back, and today we're focusing on day 2 of Matt, who did the best at the tournament. In the last video, Matt went 1-1 in the absolute expert division. We also ended on a nice cliffhanger we get to address today. But first, make sure to check out my link in the description to get awesome gear from xmartial.com. Then you too can look stylish just like me in awesome rash guards. In the last video, Matt was going up against a blue belt for his first match in the blue belt gi division. He was sitting in guard because his De La Riva sweeps were not working. However, he was able to get to the collars, and he was even able to give him a very harsh shake to try and settle in this cross collar choke. So the big question is, can Matt finish him with this choke? Yep. He gets the tap and he finishes the match just like that for his first victory of the blue belt gi division. 5 minutes later, Matt's back at the mat again, and he's ready to take on his next opponent. This time, he's up against a blue belt with 2 stripes instead of 4. The ref starts the match and they're off right away. We can see here that Matt quickly works behind his opponent, but he's not scored any points for a takedown, despite me definitely saying it's worth that. He tries to roll to his back to establish some back control, but he's not able to secure his hooks long enough to score any points. He is able to grab the lapel and he starts working on a brand new choke. He's looking for another collar choke against his opponent, but he has to pull him over to the back once again to get a better angle. He even claws the face a bit to move his head to set up this choke and to finish his opponent. I'm telling Matt to move on his hips so he can scoot it to the side, but Matt has a different option. Instead, he's going to go towards the bow and arrow to get the tap and end the match.
Perfect.
That's 2 submissions for our boy Matt in the blue belt gi division. I would love to say that Matt had a nice break in between matches, but that simply isn't true. And his next opponent is going to be one of his toughest in the tournament. You can tell the guy is a stud because he rolls with a ring on. Matt leads the attack by first going for the collar grips, and he's starting to make some motion so he can get the first takedown. However, his opponent decides that he's going to pull guard and he's not going to give the takedown points to Matt. Now Matt has to work on top of the opponent and he's trying to push some pressure into him so he can get the pass going. Matt stands up so he has a new avenue to attack this guard. However, when he takes a big step, his opponent catches him and now his opponent looks for the triangle. Matt does not posture up despite all my great advice telling him to do so, but he does a nice job squaring into the opponent and his opponent has to resettle in close guard. Matt decides the standing life is not for him and he sits down in the opponent's guard as he looks to open it. I'm continuously telling him to shove his knee in the butt so he can create some space, but that was not seen as he goes back to the standing position. His opponent grabs his ankles and he's not in too much danger yet, but then he rotates on his shoulders and he gets under Matt's right leg and he's able to sweep him over with a pencil sweep, giving him the first 2-point lead in this match. Due to his great positioning, he's able to pass Matt's guard immediately and he's now working into side control position. It takes the referee an exorbitant amount of time to give him the passing points that he deserves, but he gets them right before Matt puts him right back in half guard. Matt creates a nice shield guard, but the reset in the middle and he has some dire time constraints working against him. He only has about 90 seconds left in the match and he's down 0-5. In this type of situation, you really need to get going because the other guy's going to stay on top of you and they're not going to create too much motion since they're ahead. Matt tries working the same collar chokes that he did in his last match, but it's not quite working against this guy. They get reset once again, and as soon as the ref says to go, his opponent's pushing hard into him, but not too hard that he's going to get swept. Matt has a great moment going for him here because he's able to get his legs out and he starts working on a triangle, which leads us into a first major attack on bottom. As Matt goes to tighten the triangle, his opponent is able to get his head free, so Matt quickly counters this by going for an omoplata, and he's able to lock the shoulder down very quickly even though his opponent is trying to run around the guard. Matt does a fantastic job controlling the belt as he wants to control his opponent's posture. His opponent starts to move backwards, but Matt stays behind him to create a better angle. Matt is eventually able to push off of his foot once he had a base, and this is going to help him propel the omoplata forwards to get the final tap within the last minute of the round when he was down 0-5. It was scary to watch this one because Matt was close to losing and didn't have much time left. Thankfully, he got the victory with the omoplata, and that was a great match between the two. Matt was able to relax a little bit after this match, but his next one is going to be extremely important, and here's why. There are 12 blue belts in this league that all want to advance to the finals. Luckily, Matt was equipped with a butter knife for this competition. Now, they don't have enough time for you to go against everybody, so if you can beat everyone you go against, you get to go to the finals. But there is one man left in Matt's way, so we all know what he had to do from here. Matt walked out to his next match with his butter knife securely tucked in his pocket. He went up against a new blue belt, but this one only had 1 stripe. His opponent enters an interesting stance and they start going at it. It doesn't take too long until Matt's opponent decides he doesn't want to do anything with the wrestling after they've been tying up, and he decides to pull guard. Once they move away from the camera, Matt hits a beautiful standing pass and he's working into side control, and he already has a nice 3-point lead over his opponent. From side control, Matt continues to pressure his opponent and he has a great grip over the back of the gi. This gives him excellent hip control against his opponent. It's going to be very hard for his opponent to shrimp out. However, they do start moving really close towards the end of the mat and they are going to have to be reset in the middle. The two finally figure out what position they were in and then they can restart the match. And while there's clearly a battle going on between these two competitors, there's another battle you guys need to know about as well. That battle is between me with the camera and the referee in his pants. Every time I'm trying to get a better angle, he quickly counters my camera movement. I even move over to the new side to get a better shot, and once again, he counters my motion with his own stepping technique. This is proving to be a big issue in this match, and I'm trying to work my best to get around him. While I had that huge battle going on with the referee, Matt is continuing to pressure his opponent in side control. Matt's goal going into this tournament was to submit everybody, so he doesn't want to win on points against his opponent. He's trying to get free from this position because his opponent is locking down his shoulder because he doesn't want to get moved at all. The wonderful coaching that you can't quite hear is that I'm telling Matt to attack the knee so he can move right into mount or knee mount. Matt, however, does not want to hear any of that advice from me. Instead, he's deciding to attack the left pant leg of his opponent, and he's trying to do a knee slide across the belly to get into mount. This is a good attack, and he definitely made it successful by pulling it off against his opponent, but it could have been much easier if we attacked the knee. Now his opponent is rolling out as he timed Matt correctly, but Matt's doing a nice job staying behind him, and he's able to establish some back control to get even more points. Matt is wasting no time on the back. As soon as he's here, he's immediately attacking the left lapel of his opponent because he wants to start setting up his choke. His opponent is doing some minor hand fighting, albeit not the best hand fighting, but he is not getting choked at this time, so it must be working pretty well for him. However, as he tries to get his hip to the mat, Matt is moving out to the side because he wants to set up a better angle on his own choke. Matt already had his back points, so I'd like to see him release his hooks here so he could create a better angle and potentially transfer to another bow and arrow choke like he did earlier. This would certainly give him a better angle for finishing the choke against his opponent because this is not working for him from this position. Matt releases some pressure on this choke and he goes for the other lapel, but as he does this allows his opponent to turn into him. Luckily, Matt still has his arm controlled, so this sets him up for an easy flower sweep to get right into full mount. Matt wastes no time in the mount position and he grabs the lapel. From here, he's shoving his forearm right in the throat and he gets an easy tap with a one-arm choke. Matt shakes his opponent's hand, gets his hand raised, and now he has 4 submissions in the blue belt gi division. It's great to see that Matt was successful, and after slaying his opponent, he now qualifies for the championship bracket. This beautiful diagram shows that Matt only needs 2 more wins and then he gets to take home the gold medal. For Matt's first match in the championship bracket, he had to go up against an old rival. He had to go up against the same blue belt that he faced in the first match. This is the one where he finished excellently with the wonderful collar choke. His opponent starts aggressive and he starts pushing into Matt, but Matt hits him with a wonderful trip to get his first takedown to establish a nice 2-point lead over his opponent. He immediately shuffles right into half guard and he starts putting a lot of pressure against him because he wants to pass this guard to establish an even greater point lead. From this knee cut, he's eventually able to free his knee from the half guard and he goes over the belly, but his opponent quickly turns with him and he starts getting to a bit of a leg lock battle. Matt is quickly able to push the leg off, so he's not in any danger of any leg attacks at this point. Matt starts pushing the leg by so he can work on passing this guard. I keep telling him to sprawl the leg so it's going to be hard to capture, but his opponent does a nice job shifting with him and he's able to recapture the half guard before Matt can get any points. What can't currently be seen is that Matt is working on a Kimura despite being in half guard. He's able to start jacking the arm up and then he releases one hand off of the Kimura so he can push down the leg to pass this guard while maintaining the Kimura with his other arm. He does eventually pass to get 3 more points for the lead and then he looks to finish with the submission. However, if you want to see if he can finish this match and then move on to the championship match, you have to watch the next one.